you're on SSI benefits, what happens to you when you're in a car wreck? I'm Robert Donati. I'm a disability law specialist, and today I'm going to talk about what happens to your SSI benefits when you're in a car wreck. One of the questions I get brought a lot from attorneys and clients is, what's the impact going to be if they receive settlement funds from a personal injury case? So this could be a motor vehicle accident, slip and fall, anything where you're receiving a settlement or a judgment. And they're rightly concerned about what's going to happen when they receive these funds. So first thing you need to know is that you always want to consult your attorney that's handling your settlement as soon as you realize this may become an issue. Okay, one of the main things you need to keep in mind when you're thinking about this is what kind of benefit you're receiving. This only applies to individuals that are receiving SSI benefits, Supplemental Security Income benefits. Individuals who are getting other types of benefits from the Social Security Administration, like disability insurance benefits or Social Security pension retirement benefits, they're not going to be affected in the same way that individuals are when they're receiving SSI. If you are not sure about what kind of benefits you're receiving, which frankly a whole lot of people aren't sure about that, you can always call the Social Security Administration and ask. If that's not an option, you can just ask your attorney. If your attorney doesn't know immediately, they will likely reach out to somebody like me, an attorney that specializes in this area, and we can figure it out very, very quickly. Now, if you are receiving SSI benefits, then you need to be on guard in this situation. And the main thing you need to understand is how Social Security considers money that is received while you're on SSI. So you get hit two ways with this when you're on SSI benefits and you receive a settlement. The first thing that is going to trigger, the month that you receive a settlement, the actual funds touch your hands, the month that happens, that is going to be considered income for that month. Now, Social Security does not consider income the same way that the IRS might classify it, or some other state entity might classify it. This is unearned income for Social Security's purposes, and you don't have to have much of a settlement at all for it to essentially eliminate your eligibility for a check in the month that it's received. Next, you're going to have an issue with resources. So Social Security is actually very outdated, in my opinion, about how they handle any kind of savings. Their rules have not been updated since the 1980s about this, and so really they're looking at resources where if you have, for an individual, over $2,000 in assets, it's going to trigger a reduction in your check and potentially an elimination of the check for that month. If you're a married couple, over $3,000 in assets is going to trigger a reduction and or elimination of your check. So it doesn't take much money at all for you to jeopardize your check. So let's say somebody receives the $5,000 in a small settlement on at the end of January, and they hold that money over into February. Well, now they've lost eligibility for their benefits in January, the month that it was received, because that was unearned income for that month. And the following month, they're going to lose it because they had resources well over that $2,000 limit. And then let's say that individual decides they want to be thrifty and they want to hold on to that money and make it last. Ironically, SSI's rules are going to really hurt them for that. They're going to end up losing eligibility for every month thereafter that they hold on to that money. So a small settlement handled incorrectly, where somebody's well-intentionally trying to be frugal with their money, could end up costing them months and months of SSI benefits. More importantly, it's not just that you could lose a couple of months of benefits. If this situation persists for a 12-month period where you are not eligible because of your resources for SSI benefits, you will lose your benefits altogether. When they look at it, it's 12 months over the resource limit. That could mean that you're ultimately going to have to reapply, go through the lengthy process of seeking an award of disability in order to get back to where you started in the first place. Equally troubling, if not more troubling, depending on the state that you live in. So in Tennessee, for example, Mississippi, where I do a lot of law, and you losing your SSI benefits during that time may result in you losing Medicaid after that. If you're off of SSI benefits, you may lose your Medicaid coverage, and that can be catastrophic if you're dealing with chronic conditions and you need very expensive ongoing treatment, and you find yourself in a situation where you no longer have health insurance in addition to no longer having an income. So it's serious stuff that you need to be aware of and be thoughtful of when you're thinking about how to settle out your personal injury case. The next wrinkle for you to consider is the fact that Social Security looks at the household when considering what somebody's resources are in their determination of how much you get in SSI benefits, or if you don't get any SSI benefits at all. They look at the household. So why this is important is that it's not just the recipients receiving, the SSI recipients receiving a settlement that could impact that SSI recipient's benefits. It's anyone in the household receiving it could potentially cause a problem. So you could have a wife that is receiving SSI benefits and the husband receives a settlement. Well, if that settlement pushes their assets over that $3,000 threshold for resource consideration, then the wife's benefits are going to be impacted, even though the settlement's not for her, it's for her spouse. Let's also look at the situation where you have a minor that's disabled and receiving childhood SSI benefits. A parent receiving a settlement, that settlement coming in could potentially have an impact on the child's benefits, even though that money is not paying for any sort of injury to the child. So it's the kind of thing you want to be on the lookout for, and just frankly, you want to make sure you're talking to your personal injury attorney about it, because those are issues that are not commonly on the radar of of a lot of the PI attorneys out there. And so, you want to tell them ahead of time, hey, this is the situation, so that you don't find yourself in a major problem down the road. So what can you do to avoid these problems? Well, there are a variety of steps that you can take in consultation with your attorney to try and minimize the impact on your SSI benefits. So I'm going to break these down into options depending on the size of the settlement. First may seem kind of like a no-brainer, but you need to be thoughtful of it, and that is just spend the money on legitimate purchases and legitimate transactions as soon as you get it. The main thing that results in kind of catastrophic outcomes for people is that they hold on to that money for months and months and months, and that inadvertently and ironically hurts them with their benefits. One thing that in the case of a smaller settlement, if you owe a lot of money, you have outstanding debts that you need to take care of, or you have legitimate household purchases that you need. Something's been broken in your house and you need it fixed, and you've been holding off because you haven't had the money, or you've had a medical procedure that wasn't covered by your insurance that needs to be paid. Go ahead and spend that money. The SSI rules are harsh for people who are saving their money, and I may disagree with how it's set up, but that's the outcome. So if you have legitimate purchases and legitimate things to pay for, go ahead and do it quickly. And if you can get your attorney to issue payment on the first of the month, so you've got the entire month to spend that money down, and by the end of the month you have only $2,000 in assets if you're single and $3,000 if you're married. The following month it's not going to have an impact on your SSI, and you'll only lose a month's benefits. So that's the first thing in the case of a small settlement. In the case of a more medium-sized settlement, it gets a little bit tougher because if you get a $40,000 settlement for significant injury, you're not going to be able to spend that down quickly, and ideally you would like to avoid having to just spend all of that money in a way that doesn't preserve any kind of resource to you. So here you look at the areas where Social Security carves out exceptions for SSI in the resource category. So they don't look at, for example, one vehicle in a household that's used for your transportation. So you can buy a car free and clear as long as you're utilizing that car, using that car to go about town. That is absolutely something you can do. And even if the blue book value of that car is way over $2,000 for a single person, $3,000 for a married couple, if it's just one vehicle that you're using, it can be over that resource line and you're still good. The other way, and really just depends on how large your settlement is, Social Security will exempt a home that you live in And so you could have a sizable home that is in your name and you live in it, and it's worth, you know, 100,000, 200,000 more. It doesn't disqualify you from receiving SSI benefits. Now, to be able to, you know, plan that out, you know, you need to have a lot of forethought about how you're going to, you know, use those funds. But those are common ways people, you know, shelter at least some of the money into assets while still maintaining their SSI eligibility. The last thing, and this is really for instances that are catastrophic type of personal injury matters, where you're talking very large settlements of hundreds of thousands of dollars, or, you know, seven-figure settlements. So when I've had cases where, you know, I've had clients and we've recovered in, you know, the high six figures, high seven figures, one of the things that we've looked at are special needs trusts. Now, I'm not going to get into all the details about a special needs trust, primarily because I am not a trust attorney. And if you are looking at a very large recovery and you need to maintain eligibility, which you often do because someone who's, you know, horrifically injured in an accident, it may be critically important that they maintain eligibility to Medicaid because they need long-term care, they may need nursing home care, and you know, what settlement they have is going to be burned through very quickly because of just the huge cost of caring for someone who's been in a horrific accident. So when you get into those situations, you need to be thinking ahead of time about the possible need for a special needs trust. You're going to want to consult with your personal injury attorney about it, and you're going to want to bring in, I'd strongly recommend bringing in a trust attorney who specializes in that area. So I hope this video was helpful to you. If you'd like to see more content like this, please like and subscribe. Also, if there's a legal question you'd like to learn a little more about and like for us to tackle in our next video, please leave a comment below with what's on your mind. Thanks.